Chapter 7 Donovan Dines. Donovan pushed open the heavy glass doors to the Mellow Apartments. He smiled at Mr. Bill Gutt, the security guard, as he signed his name in the guest book. Donovan pushed the button and got onto the elevator. His grandma lived on the 4th floor. Donovan didn't like where Grandma lived now. Everyone there seemed so gloomy. He wondered if all senior citizens' apartment buildings were like that. He missed the big house that Grandma used to live in, with its front porch and large backyard. Grandma had decided that her old house was too large after Grandpop died, so she sold it and moved. Now Grandma lived in the senior citizens building just a few blocks from where Donovan lived. He could see her any time he wanted, and that was the best thing about her new apartment. Donovan knocked on the apartment door and waited. When his grandma opened the door and saw him, she smiled. "Donnie, what a pleasant surprise," Grandma said, opening the door wider. "It's nice to see you. Come in." Donovan went inside and began to take off his coat. He looked around at Grandma's apartment. His grandma was a collector, too. She collected anything given to her by her family and friends. Donovan thought this was a silly idea the first time she explained it to him. But then he decided that he liked the way Grandma's different collections blended together. Her apartment reminded him of a patchwork quilt, colorful, warm, and cozy. Old-fashioned dolls in lace-trimmed dresses were propped against an assortment of pretty teapots. Strange seashells of different shapes and sizes surrounded potted philodendron, ivy, and African violets in small clay pots. Tin cans with faded labels from long, long ago shared a shelf with tiny ceramic animals. Grandma also collected fancy old hats. She had a large felt hat with lots of peacock feathers. Another hat was box-shaped and covered with a veil. The veil was sprinkled with lots of glittery stars. In the bands of some of her hats, Grandma had stuck postcards friends had sent her from faraway places. One postcard invited her to sunny, funny Acapulco. Another postcard said that things were just dandy in Dixieland. Donovan's favorite place in Grandma's apartment was her picture wall. Here, she displayed photographs of people she knew and liked. Grandma said that if she had not seen a person for a long time, she would visit them on her wall. So, whenever he missed his grandpop, Donovan would go to the wall and visit him. "Donnie," Grandma called from the kitchen, "would you like to have some lunch?" "Is it soup?" Donovan loved Grandma's soup. "Yes, it's your favorite, and I have plenty of crackers," Grandma answered. "Did you call your dad and let him know that you got here safely?" Grandma asked. "Not yet. I'm getting ready to do it now. I'll tell Dad I'm staying for lunch," Donovan said. He wondered which of his favorite soups Grandma had fixed. He had so many. Chapter 8 Donovan's Disappointment. After lunch, Donovan set his jar on the dining room table and explained his problem to his grandma. When he finished talking, he sat back in his chair and waited for her solution. Grandma reached over and plucked a few slips of paper from Donovan's jar. She looked at a slip of paper and laughed. "Tawny," Grandma said, "do you remember when Pooh traded your ice cream cone for a broken kite?" "I won't ever forget that," Donovan said, frowning. Grandma showed him the word bamboozle, and they both laughed. And this word, emporium, Grandma said, shaking her head slowly. It makes me think of long ago, when I was a young girl. I used to buy licorice at Mr. McCrady's store. She selected another word from the jar. Donnie, where did you get this word? She asked. She was surprised to see kaleidoscope written on the slip of paper. I haven't seen one of those in years. I wonder if kids still play with them. I have never seen a kaleidoscope, Grandma, but I saw a picture of one in an old catalog. That's where I found the word, Donovan answered. Grandma read several more words before she looked at Donovan over the rims of her wire glasses. Donnie, she said, you sure have got yourself a treasure here. This is a wonderful collection of words. Donovan smiled and sat up a little straighter. Grandma's praise made him feel good, but Donovan still needed a solution to his problem. Do you see my problem, Grandma? He asked. I thought of getting a larger jar, but that would only get full too. Well, honey, what do other collectors do when their collections grow too large? She asked. I dunno, Donovan said. He thought about it for a minute. Well, Pooh collects buttons, but he never gets too many because he trades them for other things. Like what? Grandma asked. Sometimes he trades for a poster or for a few comics. Once he traded 3 buttons for a t-shirt, Donovan explained. You think you could do that? Grandma asked. No, Grandma. I can't think of anything I could get worth my words, he said. And I really don't want to give any of my words away, he added. Grandma settled back in her chair. She didn't say anything for a long while, and Donovan began to feel a little uneasy. Maybe, just maybe, his grandma didn't have a solution. She dipped her hand back into the word jar and pulled out a few more words. There are some words in this jar that I know folks living here could use, she said. Donovan slipped to the edge of his chair and wondered what his grandma was going to say. She continued. Now, I like the word persnickety. That word fits Ms. Mary Lou to a T. That woman has to have everything she does just right. Grandma slipped another word from the jar. Cantankerous. That's a perfect word for our guard, Bill Gutt. I'll bet he argues with flies. Grandma laughed and Donovan joined in. He loved the sound of his grandma's laughter. After they caught their breaths, Grandma said, I enjoyed your words, Donnie. I'm sure a lot of people would. She smiled at him and waited to see if he had something to say. Grandma, I'd be glad to let any of your friends see my words, but they couldn't keep them. I'd have to have them back for my collection. Donovan's voice was firm. Well, I am sorry if I didn't help you. Oh, Grandma, that's okay, Donovan answered, trying hard not to show his disappointment. He did not want to hurt his grandma's feelings. Besides, he said, getting up from the table, if we don't have a solution today, maybe you'll think of something tomorrow. Grandma helped him with his boots, hat, and coat. Donovan picked up his word jar and tucked it firmly under his arm. Grandma walked with him to the door. Take care of yourself, word gatherer, she said, hugging him close.